The silence of the cosmos is not an empty void, but a reservoir of forgotten echoes. For millennia, humanity has looked toward the stars with a sense of inexplicable longing, as if peering through the glass of a long-lost home. We stand upon the soil of Earth, yet our myths, our monuments, and our very blood seem tied to the rust-colored plains of the fourth planet from the sun. The mystery of the Great Pyramids of Giza is often framed as a triumph of human labor, but the deeper one digs into the geometry of the ancient world, the more the terrestrial explanation begins to crumble like sun-bleached limestone. We are told these were tombs for pharaohs, yet no mummies were ever found within the original chambers of the Great Pyramid. We are told they were built with copper chisels and hemp ropes, yet the precision of their alignment to true north, to within 3/60ths of a degree, rivals the modern engineering of the space age. But the mystery deepens when we turn our telescopes toward Mars. In the Cydonia region of the Red Planet, there exists a collection of anomalies that mirror the Giza Plateau with a mathematical precision that defies the laws of random geological erosion. There is the Face on Mars, a miles-long structure that bears the visage of a humanoid or leonine entity. Surrounding it are mounds and pyramidal structures, most notably the DNM Pyramid, a five-sided behemoth that exhibits the same sacred geometry found in the temples of Egypt. Is it possible that the architecture of Earth is merely a shadow of a much older, celestial blueprint? To answer this, we must look into the forbidden archives of human history, the accounts of the Watchers, the fallen angels, and the Nephilim. The Book of Enoch, a text scrubbed from the standard biblical canon, speaks of 200 Watchers who descended from the heavens. They were not merely spirits, they were physical beings of immense power and knowledge. They came to Earth against the divine decree, bringing with them the forbidden sciences, the movement of the stars, the forging of metals, the secrets of the clouds, and the measurement of the earth. These beings, these fallen angels, were described as giants, as shining ones. In the context of modern theory, the description of these beings sounds less like the supernatural and more like a highly advanced, transplanetary civilization seeking refuge. If we consider the heavens to be a literal reference to the planetary bodies above us, then the descent of the fallen angels may have been a planetary migration. Mars, a world that once flowed with water and possessed a thick atmosphere, suffered a cataclysmic event that stripped it of its life-sustaining properties. If a civilization existed there, a civilization of high-order intelligence, Earth would have been their only sanctuary. These angels did not arrive as creators, but as survivors. They were the architects of a dying world, bringing their technology to a primitive one. The pyramids on Earth, then, were not just monuments, they were functional machines. Many researchers suggest that the Great Pyramid was a Giza power plant, a massive device utilizing the Earth's own vibrational frequency to generate energy. On Mars, the pyramidal structures are located at the exact mathematical points necessary to stabilize planetary rotation, the 19.5-degree latitude. This is the tetrahedral constant. When we map the Cydonia complex onto the Giza Plateau, the scaling is perfect. The distance from the Sphinx to the Great Pyramid on Earth is proportionally identical to the distance between the Face on Mars and the DNM Pyramid. This is not a coincidence. It is a signature. The fallen angels, the Nephilim, were the bridge between the two worlds. They established a golden age on Earth, a period where stone was moved with sound and the secrets of the universe were laid bare. They built the pyramids as beacons, reminders of their Martian origin and perhaps as tools to communicate with whatever remained of their home. They were the sons of God, who took the daughters of men as wives, creating a hybrid lineage that would rule over humanity as God-kings for thousands of years. This bloodline, some argue, still persists in the shadows of power today, guarding the secrets of the Mars-Earth link. The red tint of Mars is caused by iron oxide, rust. It is the color of dried blood and ancient fire. To the ancients, Mars was the god of war. Why? Perhaps because they remembered the fire that fell from the sky when the Martian civilization collapsed. The war in heaven, described in the Book of Revelation and the Vedic texts of India, speaks of flying chariots and weapons that could level mountains. These were not metaphors. They were eyewitness accounts of a planetary conflict that forced the Watchers to flee to Earth. As we look at the ruins of Giza under the crimson light of a setting sun, we are looking at the remnants of a Martian colony. The Sphinx, with its body of a lion, gazes eternally toward the east, toward the rising sun, but also toward the celestial path of Mars. In ancient Egyptian, the name for Mars was Horus the Red. The city where the pyramids stand was once called Al-Kahira, which translates to the victorious, but its root is the same as the Arabic name for Mars. The connection is etched into the very language and geography of our planet. The theory suggests that the pyramids were built as part of a solar system-wide grid. These structures were not designed to hold the dead, but to sustain the living. They were atmospheric stabilizers, communication hubs, and energy generators. The fallen angels, possessing a mastery over plasma and geomancy, used the pyramids to harmonize the Earth's energy with the Martian frequency. This allowed them to maintain their advanced biological functions in a foreign environment. But this technology came at a price. The interference with the natural order of the planets led to the Great Deluge, the flood that nearly wiped humanity and the Nephilim from the face of the earth. The flood was the reset button. The angels were imprisoned or driven underground, and their great machines, the pyramids, fell silent. The sand of Egypt rose to bury the secrets, and the atmosphere of Mars turned to ice and dust. But the link was never truly broken. The geometry remains. The alignment of the stars remains. And the deep-seated memory of our Martian ancestors remains buried in our subconscious. We are now entering an era where we are once again looking toward the Red Planet. We send rovers to Cydonia, we plan for human colonization, and we wonder why we feel such an urgent need to go back. We are not explorers. We are a species with amnesia returning to the scene of our ancient origin. The first part of our journey ends here, at the base of the Great Pyramid, looking up at the stars. We have established that the architecture of Mars and Earth is linked by a singular, intelligent design. We have identified the fallen angels, not as demons, but as the master architects who bridged the gap between two worlds. But what lies inside the hidden chambers of these pyramids? What did the Watchers leave behind in the Hall of Records beneath the Sphinx? And why is the modern space program so obsessed with the Cydonia region? The answers lie in the fire and the stone. We are the children of the fallen, and the Red Planet is calling its offspring home. The Crimson Dawn is rising, and the truth of the Martian-Egyptian connection is about to be unveiled. The shadow of the fallen did not vanish with the rising tides of the Great Deluge. It merely retreated into the bedrock of the world. To understand the Mars-Earth link, one must look past the stone and into the frequency of the structures themselves. If Part 1 established the who, Part 2 must dissect the how. How did a civilization supposedly cast out of the heavens manipulate the very crust of two different planets to create a mirrored sanctuary? The answer lies in the science of the ancients, a science that modern humanity is only beginning to rediscover through the lens of quantum physics and plasma cosmology. The fallen angels, or the Watchers, were masters of what we might call cosmic resonance. They understood that every planetary body has a unique heartbeat, a fundamental frequency determined by its mass, its rotation, and its distance from the Sun. When we examine the D&M pyramid on Mars, located in the Cydonia complex, we see a structure that is nearly a mile across and almost half a mile high. Its five-sided symmetry is not found in nature. More importantly, its internal angles reflect the mathematical constants of $e$ and $pi$. This is not mere decoration. These constants are the building blocks of growth and energy distribution in the universe. On Earth, the Great Pyramid of Giza incorporates these same constants. Why would a civilization build these massive calculators in the sand? Because they were tuning forks. By placing these structures at specific nodes on the planetary grid, specifically the 19.5-degree latitude, the Watchers could harness the upwelling of energy from the planet's core. This is why the pyramids of the world, from the Sudan to the Yucatan, are built over subterranean water sources or magnetic anomalies. They were tapping into the Earth's life force, just as they once tapped into the life force of Mars. The theories of the fallen suggest that these beings were not just architects of stone, but architects of the atmosphere. Mars today is a frozen wasteland, but evidence of massive, ancient tsunamis and dried riverbeds suggests a world that once rivaled Earth in its beauty. The war in heaven was likely a celestial event, a series of plasma discharges between planets that occurs when the solar system's electrical balance is disrupted. Ancient petroglyphs found in the deserts of Earth depict the Squatter Man, a terrifying stick figure in the sky that plasma physicists have identified as a high-energy Z-pinch discharge. This was the fire of the fallen. This was the weapon that scorched the surface of Mars and forced the Watchers to descend to Earth. They brought with them the Shem, a word often translated as name, but which in ancient Sumerian refers to a shining pointed object or a craft. As the Watchers settled on Earth, they began the Great Reconstruction. They were obsessed with recreating the as above, so below principle. This was not a religious ritual, it was a survival necessity. They needed to stabilize the Earth's wobbly axis after the solar system's upheaval. The pyramids acted as massive weights and energy stabilizers. The air shafts of the Great Pyramid, which we now know were aligned with precision to the stars Sirius and Orion's belt, were not for ventilation. They were aiming devices for localized energy beams. By locking the pyramid's frequency to specific star systems, the fallen angels were effectively creating a GPS for the soul, or perhaps a beacon for reinforcements that never arrived. The lore of the Nephilim, the hybrid offspring of these beings, describes them as men of renown, the heroes of old. These hybrids became the priest-kings who guarded the technology. They were the ones who knew the word of power, likely a specific sonic frequency that could vibrate stone into a state of weightlessness. This explains the massive megaliths of Baalbek and the perfectly fitted walls of Sacsayhuaman. If you possess the knowledge of the fallen, gravity is no longer a law, it is a variable. But this knowledge was kept from the lesser humans. It was a secret science, a hermetic art, named after Hermes, another name for the messenger of the gods who traveled between worlds. The link between the two planets is also found in the Cydonia geometric relationship. If you place a compass on the face on Mars and draw a circle that encompasses the surrounding mounds, the resulting geometry creates a perfect pentagon and a hexagon superimposed. This same geometry is found in the layout of the Washington, D.C. Mall and the Vatican, sites built by secret societies that claim to be the inheritors of the ancient mystery schools. These schools trace their lineage directly back to the Watchers of Egypt. Why would the most powerful organizations on Earth still be using Martian geometry in their city planning? Because the grid still works. The ley lines of Earth are the nervous system of the planet, and the pyramids are the acupuncture needles used to direct the flow of that energy. But the most haunting theory involves the Martian face itself. Many believe the face is a tomb or a monument to the leader of the fallen ones, Lucifer or Enki, or whatever name the culture gave to the bringer of light. If the face is a mirror of the Sphinx, then both are guardians of a hidden truth. The Sphinx is often said to sit atop a hall of records. In the 1990s, seismic surveys confirmed the existence of a large, rectangular chamber beneath the Sphinx's paws. Is it possible that this chamber contains the Martian archive? Does it hold the maps of the Red Planet, the technical manuals for the pyramids, and the history of the war that broke the heavens? The Watchers were described as eternal or long-lived. If their biology was tuned to the 24.6-hour day of Mars, their bodies would have aged differently on Earth. This explains the kings' lists of ancient Sumer and Egypt, which describe monarchs reigning for tens of thousands of years. They were not human. They were the original Martians, living out their exile in the shadowed halls of Giza. They watched the stars, waiting for the alignment that would allow them to return. But the return never came. Instead, they watched as their technology was forgotten, their history turned into myth, and their monumental cities buried under the shifting sands of two different deserts. The crimson light we see today in the Martian sky is the same light that reflects off the red granite of the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid. It is a color of warning. It reminds us that civilizations, no matter how advanced, are subject to the whims of the cosmos. The fallen angels were the masters of the fire, but they were also its victims. They left the pyramids as a warning to us, a reminder that we are part of a larger, interconnected system. If we continue to ignore the lessons of the past, the lessons of Cydonia and Giza, we may find ourselves repeating the same exodus. We must ask ourselves, what did the NASA Viking missions truly see in 1976? Why did the subsequent Mars Observer mission fail, just as it was scheduled to photograph Cydonia in high resolution? There is a veil of secrecy that surrounds the Red Planet, a veil maintained by those who know the truth of the fallen. They do not want us to see the ruins because to see the ruins is to realize that we are not the first masters of this world. We are the second comers, the scavengers of a technology we can barely comprehend. In this second part of our journey, we have moved from the who to the how. We have seen that the pyramids are not tombs, but tools, interplanetary resonance devices built by an exiled race of master architects. We have explored the idea that the war in heaven was a literal, physical catastrophe that reshaped our solar system. As we move into Part 3, we will look deeper into the bloodline of the Watchers. We will investigate the physical evidence of the Nephilim on Earth and the strange skulls of Paracas that bear a terrifying resemblance to what a Martian-human hybrid might look like. The fire of the fallen still burns in the hidden places of the world. All we have to do is follow the light. The legacy of the Watchers is not merely written in the towering stones of Giza or the silent mesas of Cydonia, it is written in the very marrow of our bones. To understand the Mars-Earth link, we must investigate the biological evidence, the physical remains of a lineage that defies the standard narrative of human evolution. If the fallen angels were indeed refugees from a dying Martian civilization, they did not remain isolated. The ancient texts are unanimous. The sons of God saw that the daughters of men were fair, and they took them as wives. This was not a simple act of lust, but a calculated genetic intervention. The result was the Nephilim, the giants of old, the men of renown, who possessed the intellect of the stars and the ferocity of the earth. In Part 3, we look at the physical scars this hybridization left behind and how it connects back to the Red Planet. Throughout the world, archaeologists have uncovered remains that the mainstream scientific community struggles to explain. The most prominent of these are the Paracas skulls of Peru. These are not the result of cradleboarding or artificial cranial deformation. Genetic testing has revealed that these skulls possess mitochondrial DNA with mutations unknown to any human, primate, or animal known to date. They possess only one parietal plate instead of two, and their cranial volume is 25% larger than a standard human's. More tellingly, their hair was often naturally red, the same crimson hue that dominates the Martian landscape and the interior granite of the pyramids. If these beings were the descendants of the fallen, their biology was adapted for a planet with lower gravity and a different atmospheric pressure. They were the bridge between the Martian architect and the earthly laborer. This genetic divergence is the key to the divine right of kings. For thousands of years, the ruling elite of the ancient world, from the pharaohs of the 18th dynasty to the emperors of the Americas, claimed their authority came from the gods. They were obsessed with maintaining pure bloodlines. Why? Because they were protecting the Martian genetic code. The elongated skulls found in the tombs of Akhenaten and Nefertiti are not stylistic choices of Egyptian art, they are biological realities. These individuals were the blue bloods, a term that refers to the copper-based hemocyanin that some theorists believe was the blood chemistry of the Martian precursors, which would appear blue or green compared to our iron-based red blood. This ichor of the gods was the source of their advanced psychic abilities and their longevity. The connection to Mars becomes undeniable when we look at the lion-headed deities found in both Egypt and Sumer. The Sphinx is the primary example, but the goddess Sekhmet, a lion-headed being of fire, was said to have come from the Eye of Ra to destroy the enemies of the gods. If we look at the face on Mars, through the lens of early, unblurred satellite imagery, the leonine features are striking. It is a monument to a species that saw the lion as the ultimate symbol of their Martian heritage. On Earth, the Watchers established the Order of the Lion, a secret priesthood dedicated to preserving the mathematics of Cydonia. This is why the constellations of Leo and Orion are the primary anchors for the Giza pyramid alignment. They were not just mapping the stars, they were mapping their flight path. But the fallen angels did not just bring their biology, they brought their glow. Ancient accounts describe the Watchers as having skin that shone like the sun and eyes like lamps of fire. This luminosity is a recurring theme in the description of the Nephilim. It suggests a civilization that had mastered bioluminescence or, more likely, was integrated with high-tech smart suits or biomechanical enhancements. In the crimson-lit halls of the subterranean Martian cities, such light would have been a necessity. When they arrived on Earth, they were seen as literal gods because of this radiant technology. The Ark of the Covenant and the Urim and Thummim were likely remnants of this Martian tech, portable power sources or communication devices that use the same radioactive minerals that are abundant in the Martian crust. The theories of the fallen also suggest that the great cataclysm of Mars was an isotopic event. Analysis of the Martian atmosphere has revealed a high concentration of xenon-129, an isotope that, on Earth, is only found in significant quantities following nuclear explosions. This suggests that the war in heaven was a thermonuclear or plasma-based conflict that literally salted the Earth of Mars. The fallen angels were the survivors of a planetary holocaust. When they came to Earth, they were desperate to ensure it didn't happen again, or perhaps they were eager to restart the war on a new front. The pyramids were built as hardened sites, structures capable of withstanding the same type of orbital bombardment that had leveled Cydonia. The red Earth connection is also found in the name Adam. In Hebrew, Adam is derived from Ada, meaning red or ruddy. It is also the root of Adamah, meaning red ground. If the first man was created in the image of the Elohim, the Watchers, then the original blueprint for humanity is Martian. We are made of the red dust of the fourth planet. This is why our blood is iron-based. Mars is the planet of iron. We are bioresonators for the Martian frequency. The fallen angels did not create us from nothing. They upgraded the existing hominid species on Earth using their own Martian DNA to create a slave race capable of operating their complex mining and energy harvesting equipment. This leads to the theory of the gold. Why were the ancients so obsessed with gold? It is not a practical metal for tools or weapons. However, it is the perfect conductor for electricity and a powerful shield against radiation. Modern scientists have proposed that a dying atmosphere could be repaired by suspending microparticles of gold in the upper ionosphere. The Watchers were not mining gold for wealth, they were mining it for survival. They were trying to save their home planet, or perhaps they were trying to create a gold shield around Earth to prevent the solar fire from stripping our atmosphere as it had done to Mars. The pyramids were the delivery systems, using the upward-directed energy beams to ionize the gold and lift it into the heavens. The fall of the angels was, in essence, a fall from a high-tech state into a primitive one. As their Martian technology began to fail over the centuries, they were forced to rely on cruder and cruder methods. They taught humanity the secrets of the forge, so that we could do the work for them. But as the hybrid Nephilim grew in number, they became a threat to the original Watchers. The Great Flood was not just a natural disaster, it was a tactical strike intended to wipe out the abominations, the hybrids that had become too powerful and too violent. The fallen ones who survived the flood retreated into the inner Earth, the massive volcanic tubes and caverns that mirror the subsurface world of Mars. In this third part, we have seen that the Mars-Earth link is a biological reality. We are the descendants of a celestial union, a mixture of Earth's clay and Mars' fire. We have explored the radioactive scars of a Martian war and the golden obsession of the Watchers. As we prepare for Part 4, we will look at the hidden maps. We will investigate how the placement of ancient sites across the globe forms a perfect icosahedral grid that matches the Martian topography point for point. The blueprint of the fallen is everywhere, hidden in plain sight, waiting for the crimson sun to reveal the lines once more. The Watchers are gone, but their code remains. We are the living monuments of Mars. The blueprint of the fallen is not merely a collection of isolated monuments. It is a global, planetary web that ensnares the very geography of Earth and Mars in a singular, geometric prison. In this fourth movement of our investigation, we move from the biological to the topographical. If the Watchers were the master architects of the solar system, they would not have built in random locations. They followed a divine grid, a mathematical lattice that connects the energy centers of both planets. This is the secret of the 19.5 degrees, a numerical signature that appears with haunting frequency in the ruins of Giza and the plains of Cydonia. When we look at the Earth through the eyes of the Watchers, we see a world mapped by fire and mathematics, where every pyramid and temple acts as a node in an interplanetary circuit. To understand the grid, one must understand the geometry of a tetrahedron placed within a sphere. If you place a three-sided pyramid inside a globe so that its apex touches the North Pole, the other three corners will touch the surface at exactly $19.5 degrees latitude. This is the point of maximum energy displacement in a rotating sphere. On Mars, this is the location of Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the solar system, a massive vent for the planet's internal pressure. On Earth, this same latitude hosts the Great Pyramids of Mexico and the massive volcanic complexes of Hawaii. The fallen angels, possessing a physics we are only now beginning to grasp, knew that these points were the soft spots of a planet's crust. By building massive stone stabilizers on these nodes, they could literally tune the planet, preventing it from flipping on its axis during solar storms. This global grid is not a modern theory. It was known to the ancients as the Earth star. Plato spoke of the Earth as being composed of 12 pentagonal faces, a dodecahedron. This is the same geometry found in the Cydonia complex. If you draw a line from the Great Pyramid of Giza to the ruins of Stonehenge, and then to the pyramids of Xi'an in China, you begin to see the outline of a massive artificial network. This is the ley line system. These lines are not imaginary, they are measurable magnetic corridors. The fallen angels used these lines as highways of light. Their craft, the chariots of fire mentioned in the Bible and the vimanas of the Vedic texts, did not need fuel. They moved by interacting with the planetary magnetic field, surfing the ley lines like a ship surfs the currents of the ocean. On Mars, the city in Cydonia is laid out in a way that perfectly mirrors the placement of the sacred sites of the Nile Delta. The DNM pyramid is aligned not to the current Martian North Pole, but to a former pole that existed before the Martian crust slipped during the Great Cataclysm. Similarly, the Great Pyramid of Giza is aligned with an accuracy that suggests it was built when the Earth's orientation was slightly different. This suggests a synchronized construction. Both sites were likely built at the same time, by the same hands, using the same celestial reference points. The fallen angels were creating a twin planet resonance. By mirroring the structures of Mars on Earth, they were attempting to create a sympathetic vibration that would allow the two worlds to remain energetically linked. The theories of the fallen suggest that this grid was also a weapon system. In the Book of Revelation, there is a description of a city descending from heaven, measured in cubits and built of gold and precious stones, the New Jerusalem. Some theorists argue that this was not a spiritual city, but a massive, tetrahedral spacecraft. If the fallen angels possessed such technology, the pyramids were their docking stations and power hubs. The red-lit interior of the king's chamber, with its massive granite beams, shows signs of thermal stress, microscopic cracks that suggest the room was once subjected to immense heat or ultrasonic vibration. This was the fire of the altar. It was the sound of the planet being converted into usable energy. But why the obsession with Cydonia? The region of Mars known as Cydonia sits at a unique crossroads of Martian topography. It is the borderland between the high southern craters and the low northern plains. On Earth, Giza sits at the center of the world's landmass. Both sites are geographic anchors. The Watchers were obsessed with balance. They believed that the fall was a result of an imbalance in the cosmic fire. By building the pyramids, they were trying to create a new heaven and a new earth. They were trying to manufacture a stability that the solar system no longer provided. This is why the Sphinx faces the rising sun. It is monitoring the solar pulse. It is an early warning system for the next great flash that could strip the atmosphere. The connection extends to the very soil. The high concentration of monatomic gold and quartz found in the Giza Plateau is mirrored in the mineral compositions of the Cydonia region. These materials are superconductors. When a planet passes through a galactic dust cloud or a solar flare, these stone machines would have glowed with a crimson fire, ionizing the air and creating a protective plasma shield around the site. The fallen angels were not just hiding in the pyramids, they were operating them. They were the engineers of the void. But as their numbers dwindled and the angelic technology began to decay, the grid fell into disrepair. The nodes were abandoned, the gods went into stasis or died, and the fire went out. What remains are the echoes. When we send our modern satellites to Mars, we see ghost geometry. We see mounds that look like the Silbury Hill of England and craters that align with the Pleiades. On Earth, we see the Nazca lines of Peru, giant geoglyphs that can only be seen from the air. These were not built for humans. They were landing strips and identification markers for the Watchers returning from orbit. The Nazca lines are etched into a plateau that is rich in nitrates and metals, the same materials used in ancient Martian batteries. The link is a circuit board of continental proportions. The theories of the fallen also posit that the Hall of Records is not just a room full of books. It is a data core, a crystalline storage device that holds the frequencies of the universe. If we were to find this core beneath the Sphinx, it would likely contain the access codes to the Martian monuments. It would tell us how to turn the fire back on. This is why there is such a fierce guardianship of these sites. The military-industrial complex of the modern world is well aware of the Mars-Earth link. They are not looking for aliens, they are looking for the technology of the fallen. They want the power of the gods to use as a weapon of war, just as the Nephilim used it in the days before the flood. In this fourth part, we have mapped the invisible lines that connect our world to the Red Planet. We have seen that the pyramids are nodes in a solar-wide energy grid, designed by the Watchers to stabilize two dying worlds. We have explored the tetrahedral constant and the plasma shields of the ancient past. As we move into the final part of our journey, Part 5, we will look at the prophecy of the return. We will investigate the sign of the Son of Man and the possibility that the fallen angels are not dead, but merely waiting in the void for the cycle to complete. The crimson sun is setting on our ignorance, and the final revelation is at hand. The fire is coming back. The cycle of the ages is closing, and the crimson dust of Mars is beginning to swirl in the lungs of a new generation. In this final movement, we confront the prophecy of the return. If the fallen angels were the architects of our past, they are surely the shadow directors of our future. The Mars-Earth link is not a dead historical curiosity. It is a living, breathing countdown. As the sun bleeds into a final fiery red on the horizon of Giza, we must ask, what happens when the Watchers wake up? The evidence suggests that the pyramids on both planets were never truly abandoned. They were placed in a state of celestial stasis, waiting for a specific astronomical alignment, a key that would unlock the gates and allow the fire to return to the stone. The theory of the Great Year suggests that our solar system moves through cycles of 25,920 years. At the end of each cycle, the magnetic poles of the planets shift, and the veil between worlds thins. The fallen angels, knowing the exact mechanics of this cycle, timed their departure and their potential return. On Mars, the face in Cydonia is oriented to catch the first light of the sun during the solstice of a great year. On Earth, the Sphinx is positioned to watch the same sunrise. When the light hits these monuments simultaneously, it is theorized that a quantum bridge will open. This is the Jacob's Ladder of the ancient texts, a wormhole or a bridge of light connecting the Giza power plant to the Cydonia grid. Modern space exploration is the prophecy in action. We are told that we go to Mars to find water or signs of ancient microbial life, but the secret budget of space agencies tells a different story. We are searching for the Key of Enoch. In the late 20th century, probes sent to Mars were equipped with sensors capable of detecting artificial cavities deep beneath the Cydonia plains. What they found was a massive subterranean infrastructure, a city of fire and glass that mirrors the legends of Agartha or Shambhala on Earth. These are the cities of the Watchers, kept in a state of cryogenic preservation. The fallen ones are not ghosts, they are biological entities in long sleep, fueled by the same geothermal and tetrahedral energy that the pyramids have been harvesting for thousands of years. The sign of the Son of Man, mentioned in ancient prophecy, is often described as a light appearing in the heavens, shaking the powers of the earth. In the context of the Mars-Earth link, this sign may be the reactivation of the Martian atmosphere. If the pyramids of Mars are terraforming engines, their sudden activation would create a massive atmospheric discharge, a crimson flare that would be visible from Earth with the naked eye. This would be the signal for the elite of Earth, the descendants of the Nephilim bloodlines, to retreat to their own hardened sites. They have spent decades building deep underground military bases, DUMBS, that are mirrors of the Martian lava tubes. They are preparing for the shift. But why would the fallen angels return? To some, they are liberators, coming to restore the golden age of technology and eternal life. To others, they are the harvesters. The theory of the soul harvest suggests that the Earth was seeded by the Martians as a biological farm. Our emotions, our suffering, and our creative energy produce a frequency that these beings consume or utilize. The pyramids were the transmitters of this energy. If the fire is returning, it is because the harvest is ripe. The modern obsession with transhumanism and the merging of man with machine is the final step in the Watchers' plan. They are preparing the vessels to receive their consciousness, allowing them to finally leave their dying Martian shells and inhabit a new, upgraded human form. As we stand on the Giza Plateau, the red granite of the Great Pyramid feels warm to the touch, as if a great engine is idling beneath the sand. The Hall of Records is rumored to have been opened in secret by a select group of initiates. They have found the Martian blueprints, the star maps that show Earth and Mars as part of a much larger 12-planet empire. The war in heaven was merely a civil war in this empire, and Earth was the prison colony where the losers were cast. But the prisoners have built a civilization. We have developed the very technology that was used to exile our ancestors. We are now a spacefaring species, and as we reach out toward Mars, we are effectively breaking the locks on our own prison cells. The crimson lighting of our narrative is a reminder of the blood covenant between the two worlds. Mars and Earth are not separate entities. They are a binary system of history. The fallen angels were the bridge, and the pyramids were the bridgestones. As we look into the future, the lore of the end tells us that the heavens will be rolled up like a scroll. This is a description of a fold in spacetime, the activation of the Mars-Earth bridge. When this happens, the physical distance between the two planets will vanish. We will walk through a stargate in Egypt and emerge in the Temple of Cydonia. The fire will be everywhere, and the Watchers will stand once more upon the Earth. This is the final revelation of the Mars-Earth link. We are not alone, and we have never been native to this world in the way we were taught. We are the exiles of Cydonia, the children of the fallen, the architects of the fire. The pyramids were built to remind us of who we are and where we came from. They are the silent witnesses to our past and the screaming sirens of our future. The reddish fire we see in the sky is not just a planet, it is a mirror. It is our home, our tomb, and our destiny. The theories of the fallen conclude with a choice. We can remain lesser humans, slaves to a history we don't understand, or we can embrace our Nephilim heritage and reclaim the stars. The fire is rising. The pyramids are humming. The angels are waking up. As the final crimson sun sets on the Giza Plateau, we realize that the link was never broken. It was only waiting for us to look up. The story of Mars is the story of Earth. The story of the fallen is the story of us. The fire of the stars is in our blood, and the sand of the desert is in our souls. The gates are opening. The return is now. The final image of our journey is an extreme wide shot of the two planets, now glowing with a synchronized, intense crimson pulse. The pyramids on both worlds are firing beams of pure, white-hot light into the void, connecting them in a visible web of energy. The fallen have risen, the pyramids have spoken, and the link is complete. The transition is over. The new age of fire has begun. There is no more silence in the cosmos, only the roar of the returning gods.